Hi, I'm VanEpps, and welcome to today's episode of Stories from the Saddle. Today, I'm going to share a story from my first marathon that I'm sure you'll find entertaining. It was May 1999, and I was running in my first marathon. I'd been training since January, and living in upstate New York, I was very well suited for a cold weather run. Up until race day, the warmest day I had for a long training run was about 55 degrees. Mother Nature had a big surprise in store for me that day, a beautiful, sunny, 75-degree spring day. That may be an ideal spring day to enjoy the outdoors in the park, not for a run, especially when you've been training in colder weather. The first 18 miles went relatively uneventful. I was running my race, I was holding my pace, and I was feeling pretty good. However, with the heat, I was starting to feel a little bit dehydrated. The dehydration started to bother my stomach a little, and I was no longer able to take in any fluids or nutrition. But my pace was still holding strong at mile 18. As far as marathons go, they say it's always a story of two races, miles 1 through 18, and the rest of it. The rest of it was about to get interesting. Over the next several miles, the heat started to really get to me, and by the time I got to mile 23, I was on fire. I could tell I was severely dehydrated, but my stomach just wouldn't let me take in any fluids. My pace was starting to drop, and while I only had 3 miles to go, I knew I was in trouble. As I hit an aid station, hopefully for some ice chips and some water, one of the volunteers noticed that I was no longer sweating and I was bright red. And they said, "Hey, you're in trouble." So they encouraged me to go sit down under a tree. I doused myself with water, put some ice chips on my neck, and tried to cool off. A few minutes later, I was cool enough where I was ready to keep going, so I jumped back on the course, and at this point, the course took us right behind the Buffalo Zoo. And guess which way the wind was blowing? From the zoo right to the course. In addition to overheating, the horrible smell of zoo animals was now starting to get to me. I guess at that point, it worked in my favor that I was dehydrated and hadn't been able to eat or drink anything for a while, because at that point I stopped, stepped to the side of the road, and just started dry heaving. I wanted it all to go away. The heat, the pain, the dehydration, the smell of the animals. But I had told my 2 children, who were very young at that time, that I was going to finish this race. There were only 3 miles to go. I knew I had to keep going. The next 3 miles were very difficult. However, the farther I got from the zoo, the more the smell cleared up. I was able to muster up enough strength to run those last 3 miles and finish out the race. If you've ever competed in an endurance event, you know the minute you see that finish line, all your troubles go away. The heat, the pain, the exhaustion, and yes, even the smelly zoo animals. There really is no feeling like crossing that finish line. It's the ultimate high. I then caught up with my friend Bob. He had crossed the line just a minute ahead of me. We ran much of the race together, only now he was the one throwing up from the smell of the zoo animals. The next day, Bob and I signed up for marathon number 2. Only this time, we made sure there was no zoo on the course. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Stories from the Saddle. As always, remember that life's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Take some time and enjoy the journey along the way.